see how we go. We're going to start off with Vicario. 7s all round for Big Vic. I think look, he did everything called upon yesterday. I don't think he could have done much with the goal because it was a really good volley. But every time our goal came under pressure, I thought he did well. He was commanding once again. So another top performance in my opinion.
Yeah, no complaints. Two early saves, one from Edouard and one from Ayew early on, low down to his left, which he had to make and couldn't hold on to. Those are important moments in the game. But apart from that, it was a quiet day. Couldn't do much with the goal. Didn't really have too much to do even late on when Palace were putting a bit of pressure on. Didn't have to make too many saves. I just give him big credit for the early 2 saves, and he was very unlucky not to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah. Let's move on to Pedro Porro. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought it was a bit up and down from Pedro Porro yesterday. There were times where he was really contributing to the attack really well, getting into the midfield spaces and trying to drive us on. But I felt he was a bit more sloppy than usual yesterday, Pedro Porro. He got caught out a little bit for the goal that we did concede. But all in all, I don't have too many problems, but I don't think it was as strong maybe as we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't his best performance. I think defensively he was pretty fine on that side. Didn't have too much trouble dealing with their right wing, or whoever, Schlupp, I think it was, for the majority of the game. He kept him fairly quiet. Going forwards, he wasn't as involved as I would like him. I think he should have been a bit more impactful in the game, but I think he gave a solid display. Wasn't too much to complain about.
Next up, Mickey van der Ven. Sim gives him a 9. I gave him an 8, and I thought it was an absolutely massive performance from Mickey van der Ven once again yesterday. He was winning his duels. He was constantly just clearing the ball out of our area as well. Nothing got past him throughout the whole day. He was so dominant. Yeah, phenomenal. I think he didn't put a foot wrong really throughout the whole game. A big reason, again, what Andrew was saying after the Fulham game, where he said, he feels like our defensive game is actually winning us points at the moment. And I think a lot of it is down to Van der Ven and that Romero partnership. And I thought yesterday, again, just so commanding, so calm. But it's what I love about him is just when any time there looks like we could be a bit of a danger of the run in behind, it looks like all of a sudden the Palace player can have a bit of space, and if he can get a run on any of our defenders, they could be on goal. There's Van der Ven just coming and sweeping up every single time with his pace and his strength, and he's got a superb reading of the game when it comes to those elements of it. And I've just seen so many times on this season where I'm so sure last season we would have conceded, or at least conceded a big chance. And this season, Van der Ven is just stepping in, and it's not even becoming an opportunity. And people forget about those times because it doesn't even become of anything just because Van der Ven is who he is. So another phenomenal display from him. When are we going to start having that Van der Ven Saliba conversation?
Should be already being had, mate. I'm not even joking. He's that good, Van der Ven.
Because we're talking about Saliba as one of the best, if not the best centre back in the Premier League right now. Like, is Van der Ven up there in the conversation?
This season, 100%. 100. In the first 10 games, I don't think anyone...
Because after 10 games last season, people were already calling Saliba the best defender in the league.
I agree. And they would say, because he had a good time at Marseille and stuff like that. But Van der Ven was great at Wolfsburg as well. So I think the conversation with Van der Ven has to be started. Look, if you can't see Van der Ven and just can't see how he's just been faultless... I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah, agreed. Cuti Romero up next. Sim gives him a 9. I gave him an 8. Again, another really dominant display from the 2 Spurs centre-backs, and Cuti Romero was no different. I thought he was always being aggressive. He was pretty much playing as a central midfielder, wasn't he? For the majority of the game, stepping into that midfield, causing another option there. And look, his little dinks and stuff like that were really important for us during the game yesterday. And another player who I just can't fault.
Yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't separate him and Van der Ven, so I gave them both 9s. I thought, again, another exceptional display for Romero. Edouard pretty much had one shot throughout the whole game, didn't he? And that was it early in the game. And other than that, he was absolutely quiet. And I love Romero in these kind of games where he just takes responsibility himself. He doesn't, just because he's a centre-back, he doesn't feel like, okay, I'm just a centre-back, so I'm going to give responsibility to, playing those forward passes and being creative to the forward players. He takes responsibility as well in himself to try and progress the ball as quickly as possible and get on the ball. I think he was on the ball more than any other player yesterday at the centre-back, and that just goes to show how much he demands the ball all the time and how much responsibility he takes. And then defensively, he just does his job. He's been so solid, and he's been a perfect partner for Van de Ven as well. Another top display yesterday for me.
Moving on to left back Ben Davies, who did only last 45 minutes on the day. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. And I thought he was struggling, to be honest, whether that be with injury or his quality. I'm not sure what it was down to, but I felt like they were targeting him a little bit. He had a bit of a hard time up against Ayew, where Van de Ven did have to cover him on a number of occasions. And I felt like his quality on the ball was lacking a little bit yesterday. And I thought it got a lot better when Emerson came on second half.
Yeah, Emerson was definitely better than Davis. I agree with that. I didn't think I had too much to complain about when it comes to Davis. I don't think he played particularly well. I don't think he was a liability either. I think he played okay. It was a pretty average display from him, for me anyway. I didn't think he did anything too great. But again, I thought defensively he was all right. Was part of the team on the ball as well, where he was allowed us to keep possession. But there's no surprise he was part of the half where we really struggled to create any opportunities.
Yeah. Moving on to PAPE MATAR star. What a performance from him last night. 8s all round for him. Look, this guy, I just can't believe what a player we have. Like, at 20 years of age, for him showing what he's showing right now to be a star in a Premier League midfield that's top of the league after 10 games of the season where he's been so central to it. The guy just does not stop running. He covers every single blade of grass. Like we used to say about Sissoko consistently when he started to do well, but this guy has just taken it to a complete another level. I mean, I don't understand how the energy levels of this guy is just incredible. And not only is it energy levels and hard work, but he's got quality to match it with. He had his hand in both of the goals we had yesterday, especially that second one. That ball over the top to Brennan Johnson was something to behold. And the interchange with Maddison as well for the first goal was brilliant. So I'm so happy with Pape Sarr, and I'm so happy that they decided to go with him in the starting lineup yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant performance from Sarr, I have to say. Really stepped up yesterday when we needed him to. Not only is he showing that hard work ethic and passion off the ball, but on the ball as well, showing his quality, showing what he's about in and around the penalty area, heavily involved in both goals we scored. But in the 90th minute, he just keeps running, keeps going, is an absolute nuisance for the opposition throughout the whole game. Brilliant display from Sarr. And at 21 years old, to be showing this level of consistency, playing in central midfield, which is one of the most difficult positions in the Premier League to be playing. And he's just every week being one of the better players, and he's just been so consistent throughout the whole season. Is absolutely extraordinary, and he's just going to go from strength to strength, and I just think he's going to get better and better, and that's the most frightening thing. So brilliant from Sarr.
Moving on to Yves Bissouma, did start the game yesterday. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Did go off on the hour mark for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who I felt did have a bit more control of things when he did come on. Bissouma was a bit frustrating for me yesterday, actually. I think we didn't see the Bissouma that we have seen all season. It wasn't a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination, but I just felt, especially in the first half, was quite sloppy. He did have his moments, and he did prove his worth to the team with, finding it quite hard to deal with him and finding it quite hard to get the ball off him. But I felt like he was just playing within himself a little bit yesterday, and he wasn't kind of exerting himself like he has done in previous weeks that we've seen him. I
thought he had a pretty decent performance. Was definitely nowhere near his best, that's for sure. I think he didn't quite have the confidence on the ball. Maybe I don't know what it is. Maybe that dive that he took and got himself sent off, maybe that's still in his mind a bit. But on the ball, he didn't quite do what he usually does when it comes to opening up the space with his dribbling ability. I thought off the ball, I had no complaints. I thought he was pretty good. I think he was pretty at the levels that he usually is. And I think his passing, I didn't think it was too sloppy. I thought his passing was okay. I just think the big difference was his confidence when it came to taking people on wasn't to his usual standard. So I think he had it, and was he rightly taken off on the hour? Maybe. I don't know if Postecoglou had the game on Monday in mind when he took him off and thinking, I want him fresh for the Chelsea game. But definitely he must have had Højbjerg's performance on Monday in mind when he took him off, because I thought Højbjerg played really well. So I wasn't too disappointed, but obviously I expect more from Bissouma given what we've seen from him in the season.
Yeah. Who have we got next? We've got James Maddison. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. It wasn't his best performance by any stretch of the imagination, where he was, finding it really difficult to operate in those tight spaces where Crystal Palace just didn't leave any room in those areas that he likes to operate in. But having said that, he was very aggressive off the ball. He was winning the ball back countless amount of times whilst he was dropping deep. And he had his hand massively in both of the goals that we scored. The first one, lovely whipped in or drilled cross that forced the own goal, where it could have found Richarlison at the back post. And the second goal was a lovely interchange with Brennan Johnson. And the way he just takes it past, I think it was Ward there on the other side of the pitch, was absolutely brilliant. So even in his quiet games, he's providing moments of brilliance for us and moments of quality to win us the football match.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's what great players do. There's, even when you have even the best number 10s, like even Odegaard or De Bruyne or anything like that.
Who, Ghostegaard, you mean?
Yeah, well, Ghostegaard, you should say. Sometimes they'll have games where they're very quiet and they're not as involved, and it's a lot harder for them to get involved with the game, especially when you're playing against a Palace team who pretty much had like 4 centre mids on the pitch. Cheek Decore and Lerma and Schlupp and Hughes, very physical midfielders. It can be very difficult to get involved in the game, but what you do is you just stay on your toes, wait for the moments to come to you and make the difference when you can. That's exactly what he did. When the time came for him to make the difference and get involved in the attacking phases and show his quality, he did that to aplomb. Brilliant, ball across the face of goal for the first goal, forced the own goal from Ward, and then a brilliant nutmeg and interchange with Brennan Johnson for the second goal. And that piece of play to Brennan Johnson looks easy, but he has to pick the perfect way to pass, the perfect timing, and he has to nutmeg Ward all in one motion to get Johnson in on goal so he can set him up. So definitely not as easy as it looked, and it needs proper quality to do that. And that's what he showed. So it wasn't his best game, but even in one of his worst games, he's still heavily involved in the 2 goals we scored, and just shows the quality he's got.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to Decky, Dejan Kulusevski, 6s all round from us. And I thought it was a bit of a frustrating night for Dejan. He was being very physical, like we know he can, with his ground duels, winning them on a constant occasion. And he actually did get down to the byline a couple of times, but I felt like it was the quality in the final ball once again with Decky where it really let us down. And you're talking about trying to break down a stubborn Crystal Palace team. He's the one with his physical presence, which I was looking at more as opposed to the other side with Richarlison to really making an impact, and Sonny, to be honest. And I just don't think he did that for the most part.
Yeah, wasn't a fantastic display. I actually thought he was much better in the second half than he was in the first half. First half, he was a bit anonymous, but then again, maybe you can make that same accusation for a lot of our players, but I don't think he was getting involved too much in that first half down the right-hand side. But I did think he started to link up a lot more with like Sarr on that right-hand side, a bit more in that second half, was getting to the byline, asking a few more questions of that Palace back line. But again, when it came to providing moments of quality to get that goal and assist, unfortunately wasn't quite there. So still things to work on for Kulu, but wasn't our worst player on the day.
Yeah. And let's move on to Richarlison. 5s all round from us. Not the greatest display, to be honest. After a few kind of positive displays, this was a step backwards, in my opinion, in terms of his performance. And in my opinion, I'd like to see Brennan Johnson start the next game and him to come out of the team. He just failed to provide anything really good going forward. I felt like off the ball as well, he was a bit frustrating, losing quite a few duels. He was working hard like he always does, but there was just no quality. The ball bouncing off him again and that kind of stuff. Just failed to provide anything positive, to be honest.
Yeah, I said before the game that I felt like he's doing just enough right now to be included in the starting 11, and as long as he's contributing, goals and assists and stuff, I'm going to forego maybe some faults in his overall performance at the moment, because he's still contributing when it comes to in the final third. But yesterday was a perfect example of when he's not contributing in the final third. It's difficult to justify his place in the team because he's very wasteful. He gives the ball away so much, and then if he's not providing that quality in the final third, he's a bit of a wasted spot in a way sometimes. And I think he was a bit of that yesterday. I don't think it was dreadful, but it's just a serious lack of proper quality on the ball, to try and make things happen and keeping the ball. He just gives it away so often. And I think Brennan Johnson showed in the last half an hour what he can do on that left-hand side. He was very threatening, and I thought he had a really great cameo. So I said before the game, if Richarlison doesn't play well, I'm more than happy to see Johnson come into the team. And I think Johnson's cameo as well was probably done himself more justice on that front as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Johnson comes in for next game.
And last but not least, of the starting 11 is Heung-min Son, our captain. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. And you know what? It actually was a really good display from Sonny yesterday. And not only did he score the goal where you got to be in the right place, the right time, his positional play throughout the whole game I thought was actually top notch. The amount of times he was making the right runs and he wasn't being picked out, or they weren't playing the pass to him, was actually quite a few times during the game yesterday. And he had to bide his time. He had to be patient, and he did what all great strikers do. Even if you don't see a lot of the ball during the game, you got to be there at the right time and be there for the money moment, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, 100%. And he's adapting to this number 9 role so well at the moment. Heung-min Son, 8 goals in 10 games now for him this season. Another clinical finish, this time on his left foot. We know he's so two-footed. He can do first-time finishes any way you like. And it was he just waited for the moment to get his chance. And we know how clinical he is. He just needs one chance. He had one shot the whole game and ended up putting it in the back of the net. And he just provides such a good role for the team right now, playing in that number 9 position. I felt against Fulham, he was a bit more involved maybe in the general play with little one-touch passes. In this game, he had to bide his time. He had to be patient. Maybe he was, he had to play on the last line to just stretch that Palace defence as much as possible, to create as much space as possible for our midfielders to operate in. And in that second half, it definitely paid dividends. Maybe not as much in the first half where we were struggling to get involved. But he's just having a phenomenal season in front of goal yet again. And he's really putting behind him those worries of last season of maybe he's declining, or maybe he's not maybe he's over the hill, some people are saying, but I think he's showing this season far from it, and he's in the race for a golden boot right now. Yeah, he really is. 1 goal behind Haaland, which is unbelievable, to be honest. But yeah, big up to Heung-min. Low blocks as well. Another goal against a low block team inside the box, where that was people's biggest complaint. So he's showing he can do that run in behind job like he did against Arsenal. And got to give him so much credit. And he can also do the inside the box stuff. You have to give him so much credit, because he is just like every question that he's been asked of, he is answering with flying colours. We're going to start seeing him doing powerful headers soon. Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing missing from his game, but it's coming, people. It's coming. But that's Heung-min Son. Let's move over to the substitutes in terms of Emerson Royale. Sim gives him a 7, and I actually, it's got to be a 7, because 6 is too low for Emerson yesterday. So I think, I definitely should have given him a 7, because I thought he was brilliant when he came on yesterday. He gave us a lot more than what Ben Davies didn't get. He was a lot more combative. He won 8 of his 10 duels yesterday, and he just gave us so much more of a presence here, and I felt so much more comfortable with him on the pitch than Ben Davies. Yeah, and I was saying in the review that I was a bit disappointed with Emerson when he came off the bench against Fulham, played on that left back role. I didn't think he played particularly well, but I was actually very impressed with him this time round, and I thought he did a really good job for the team, and I actually think it suited him a bit in that inverted role, allowed him to play his more natural game, which is a bit more possession based, a bit more keeping the game a bit simpler. I think he did that really well, and I thought defensively he really shut them down effectively. They didn't really have anything apart from a late flurry in stoppage time to really hurt us in that second half, and I think a lot of that was down to how aggressive and physical Emerson was, and he gave a good platform for the left-hand side to really get involved in the game, especially when Brennan came on as well. And I think a large part of why Brennan did so well is because of the protection he had from Emerson. I thought he had a fantastic cameo, so great second half from him. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as well. I should have given this guy a 7, and I am giving this guy a 7 because I thought he was really good when he came on, but 7's all round for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, even though it does say 6 there. But look, Højbjerg, I thought he was better than Basuma when he came on. I thought that we had a lot more control in the middle of the park. As soon as Højbjerg came on, his passing ability was on show. He was driving the ball forward, and he was also being combative in the middle of the park. So I thought it was a really good display from Pierre once again. Yeah, and again, him making a good impact off the bench after a really good start on Monday night against Fulham. He's been doing it all season, just being a very good substitute and doing his job when he comes off the pitch and allowing us to see out games. And actually, I thought we did improve once he was on the pitch as well. I think Spurs were actually better, which is something I've complained about in previous games where maybe the substitutes have declined our quality on the pitch. I didn't feel like that was the case yesterday. And I thought Højbjerg did a really good job for the team, and again, showing why he's a really good alternative to Basuma.
Yeah. And the last player that we're going to rate is Brennan Johnson. 7s all round from Brennan, and I think it was a much better display from Brennan than what we saw from Richarlison. He was looking threatening throughout. I think it was 2 key passes and 1 big chance created from Brennan Johnson. That assist he got was such a lovely interchange with him and Maddison, and the movement from Johnson to just weave himself into the box was absolutely second to none, to be honest. And he just looks so threatening when he's on the pitch, and he's got to start next game.
100%, and I think he had a really good cameo. I think he did much more than Richarlison in his half an hour than Richarlison did in the hour he was on. I thought he was energetic, he was quick, he was getting involved in all the good attacking play that we were doing in the last half an hour, and obviously his role in the second goal was absolutely crucial. And he looked like back to his confident best. Obviously, Ange said, he's been a bit frustrated recently. He's had to bide his time to get chances after come back from injury, but I'm sure he's going to get a lot more chances after that cameo.
And last but not least, big Ange Postecoglou. Sim gives him a 9. I gave him an 8. And look, I was talking about him before, but every single question asked of this man, every single style of play that we come across, we are answering with flourishing colours at the moment, and it's all down to this guy. He's finding these little tactical tweaks in each and every game to figure out answers. I felt like the subs that he made literally won us the game yesterday and swung the game back in our favour, albeit we did concede at the end, which was unlucky because it should have been ruled out for the handball, so we actually should be talking about a clean sheet here today. But massive props to Ange and his game management yesterday, because I thought it was everything that he did yesterday, and every substitution and decision he made throughout the game was absolutely spot on. And look, we're top of the league, 5 points clear, and this is the best start Spurs have had to a season probably since '61. And every time he wins a game is another record, because it's unbelievable. Because after 9 games, he had the best start to a managerial campaign out of any other manager. So it keeps getting better and better and better.
I assume after 10 games it's the same thing. I thought he managed the game really well. Yeah, first half we struggled to break down a very stubborn Palace team, and he wouldn't have been too happy with maybe our attacking play in the first half and how we struggled to create chances. But you got to say, defensively, we were still on point, and I thought he did. He managed the game very, very well. We were very patient. We found solutions yet again, like we've been doing all season, just continually finding solutions to problems that we find in games. And we did exactly the same thing yesterday. Second half, we found the goal. He made some really good substitutions, which improved the team. We're a really good team goal for the second goal as well. And I thought we managed the game very well. We even brought Bentancur on, and he looked sharp. I thought how he's managed that situation as well has been very, very good. And the only downside is we did concede, and maybe at 2-1 as well, Palace put us under the cosh a bit later in the game, and with a bit of luck could have been 2-2, but I think that would have been unjustified with the performance on the day. I think he managed the game so well, and how he's built a team that is able to kind of find solutions to problems so early on is very, very impressive, because usually it takes teams a while to get to a level where, first of all, they're playing well within their own right, and then once they come up against issues, they counteract those issues with problem solving. And the fact that he's got to that problem solving stage so quickly is mightily impressive, because teams are coming up with ways to try and stifle us already. They're learning very quickly how we play, and we have to counteract that. And the fact that we're counteracting that so early on in his tenure, and still, even after 10 games, no team has found a solution to beat us yet, is incredible.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. So absolutely big up to Ange Postecoglou and big up to the team. We are 5 points clear at the top of the league.